Not a bad haul if you ask me. Now apparently, tonight's the night where all manner of ghosts and ghouls roam the earthly plane. And if you look outside your window, you may see some of these entities stalking the streets for their latest victim. Most of these ghouls seem to be happy accepting a candy bar or two, but it's got me wondering, what exactly do you guys do to get in the Halloween spirit?
He said it! He said it!
For me, it's playing video games, especially those that surround the worlds of the supernatural and the macabre. And what better night is there but to reveal my top 13 horror games that get me in the mood for Halloween. And so slaughtering the denizens of hell at number 13 is Splatterhouse. In the 80s, the slasher genre of horror films was taking the silver screen by storm. And when it came to Splatterhouse, this love for the macabre and over-the-top violence was welcomed by gamers. Taking on the role of Rick Taylor, gamers have to traverse an evil mansion full of hellish monstrosities, while searching for his girlfriend Jennifer and harnessing the power of the mask. With its over-the-top violence and gruesome gameplay, Splatterhouse was massively popular, and with its mixture of horror and action, it's easy to see why this 80s classic is looked back on with such fondness. But does Rick truly have what it takes to stop the evil forces of evil? With the power of voodoo at number 12 is Shadow Man. The realms of Dead Side and Live Side have always been connected. Without one, you can't have the other. With the Mask of Shadows bonded to his chest, Michael Lawar is Shadow Man, a voodoo warrior of unlimited power. With its creepy atmosphere and seemingly open world, gamers will enjoy this horror action adventure where they'll encounter many strange individuals. Can Shadow Man stop the apocalypse before it's too late? Becoming the essence of evil at number 11 is Manhunt. Most horror games revolve around a supernatural element, apparitions of tortured souls, or grotesque creatures of darkness. However, when it comes to Manhunt, this nightmarish entity is in fact you. Manhunt's violent nature of gameplay turned the mirror onto the player, unlocking a disturbing fascination with brutality. A violent and gory stealth game at its core, Manhunt also brought with it a dark and looming atmosphere. Now, are you brave enough to cross the line into madness? Sentenced to death at number 10 is The Suffering. Imagine, if you will, being sentenced to death row for some murders you're not entirely sure you committed. And on the first night of your incarceration, nightmarish monsters and cruel entities invade the prison, tearing the flesh from the guards, as well as hunting down the terrified inmates. This is exactly what happens to silent protagonist Torg, and from this horrific event, he must escape the evil Carnate Island. Combining psychological twist, action-packed gore, The Suffering also pushed the natural nightmares for gamers. Can Torg overcome the evil and escape Carnate Island? Working the night shift at number 9 is Five Nights at Freddys. Now, usually, pizzerias as well as restaurants are places for families to come together, enjoying quality food as well as being entertained. But when it came to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, certain events of the past had this once happy place become the subject of speculation and rumour. Five Nights at Freddy's has gamers taking on the role of the night shift guard, whose job it is to keep an eye on the strange animatronics. Over the course of 5 nights, players will have to check the security cameras for Freddy Fazbear and his friends as they wander the restaurant in search for their next victim. Can you survive all 5 nights? With a story spanning 2,000 years at number 8 is Eternal Darkness. Some video games have become legends over time, even gaining a cult status accolade, and this is no different when it comes to Eternal Darkness. Playing similar to certain horror titles, Eternal Darkness focused more on the psychological side of gaming. With a story spanning 2,000 years and a whole cast of characters to play through, do you have what it takes to defeat the evil within? Fighting off the Horde at number 7 is Left 4 Dead. Zombies have always been massively popular, and while there have been many games featuring these reanimated corpses, it was Left 4 Dead that distilled a sense of fear and dread when it came to The Walking Dead. You and 3 survivors are flung together against a massive horde of mutated and aggressive zombies, doing everything you can to survive that little bit longer. Played from a first-person perspective, gamers will have to have their wits about them as zombies of all shapes and sizes will attack from every direction. Will you help your team to survive, or will you leave them in this living nightmare as you escape? Tracking down serial killers at number 6 is Condemned Criminal Origins. Now, apparently, everybody has the potential to become a killer, but luckily for most, none will ever cross that line. But when it comes to Condemned Criminal Origins, FBI agent Ethan Thomas will eventually come face to face with those that made that decision. Players have to use their investigator skills to try and find the whereabouts of some of these serial killers, as well as unlocking the identity of a mysterious killer only known as Serial Killer X. And what makes Condemned such a jewel within the horror genre of video games is allowing gamers to delve into the deranged mindset of the insane, but be sure to use your environment around you in order to survive. Questioning the very fabric at number 5 is The Evil Within. Now, the subgenre of horror survival games have had some classic titles over the years, but when it came to The Evil Within, it took this concept and made it even more macabre. Detective Sebastian Castellanos begins a descent into madness while investigating a gruesome massacre. Events lead him to wake up in a distorted, nightmarish world, full of bizarre and disfigured entities. Playing similar to classic horror survival games, The Evil Within brings the terror for gamers, playing on their fears and making them witness some horrific scenes that are essentially nightmare fuel. But is it all real, or the subject of a deluded mind? Hiding in fear at number 4 is Alien Isolation. Being chased by unseen horrors has been a staple of video games for several years, but just imagine being trapped within a confined space while being stalked by an entity of pure terror. And this is exactly what happens when playing Alien Isolation. Playing as Amanda Ripley, gamers have to traverse a space station while avoiding a deadly xenomorph. The best thing to do is obviously hide, but with Alien Isolation, the xenomorph can hear each and every sound, especially those gamers that feel the need to use the Kinect functions. Now, are you sure that hiding space is the best option? Investigating gruesome reports at number 3 is Outlast. Now, hospitals are supposed to be places of healing, but when rumours start to spread of horrific events occurring, journalist Miles Upshur decides to uncover the truth. From the moment Outlast begins, the atmosphere is one of oppression, and it's these small details that develop gamers into this macabre world. Being equipped with a camera with night vision, sneaking around in the dark becomes second nature, especially when avoiding the murderous patients within. But be careful not to make any sudden noises. Screaming into the endless void at number 2 is Dead Space. Now, the worlds of the supernatural and horror have tantalised mankind for millennia, but it's the unknown reaches of space that have truly fascinated the inquisitive. Eventually, Isaac Clarke finds out the answer to this question while boarding the space station known as the Ishimara. The atmospheric and desolated dark corridors within the Ishimara only added to the horrific experience, but it was the incredible sound design that enveloped gamers into this amazing space horror survival title. Can you be sure of what lays in the darkness? Now, you might have noticed 2 certain games that haven't appeared on this list just yet, but when comparing them both, you can't have one without the other.
Interesting.
So, sharing the number 1 spot and continuing to scare gamers even now is Silent Hill 2 and Resident Evil 4. Now, the Silent Hill Resident Evil series each have had some amazing titles within their respective franchise. But when it came to Silent Hill 2 and Resident Evil 4, it seemed that these 2 particular games were the cream of the crop. While one focused on sheer action with horror, the other delved into the realms of the supernatural and the occult. The psychological nightmare of Silent Hill 2 will have gamers losing their grip on reality, and with Resident Evil 4, it's the feeling of being utterly helpless when being confronted by some overwhelming horrors. Now, they may differ slightly in gameplay, but both of these titles have one thing in common, and that's putting the sense of fear into gamers. So there you have it, 13 games to get you in the mood for Halloween, and as I said earlier, all manner of ghosts and ghouls roam the earthly plane. But can you be sure as to who exactly it is that knocks on your door tonight? Anyway, come back next time where the cartoon guy takes a look at a classic of the 80s. But who exactly are these masked individuals? Thank you so much for watching, and see you next game.